Welcome back to Spooky Stories. For the next 10 days leading up to Halloween, I'll be sharing spooky stories, but not always spooky, from books within the collections at Seton Hall University, along with the strange and sometimes just downright weird of collections. I hope you enjoy. It is day 7 of Spooky Stories, and this is Leeds Devil from American Myths and Legends by Charles M. Skinner. Within recent times, the Leeds Devil has ramped about the New Jersey Pine region between Freehold and Cape May, though it should have been laid many years ago. Its coming portends evil, for it appears before wars, fires, and great calamities. Albeit a sober Quaker in appearance, Mother Leeds of Burlington, New Jersey, was strongly suspected of witchcraft, and suspicion became certainty when, in 1735, a child was born to her. The old women who had assembled on that occasion, as they always do assemble whenever there is death or birth or marriage, reported that while it was like other human creatures at first, the child changed under their very eyes. It began to lose its likeness to other babes, and grew long and brown. It presently took the shape of a dragon, with a snake-like body, a horse's head, a pig's feet, and a bat's wings. This dreadful being increased in strength as it gained in size, until it exceeded both the bulk and might of a grown man. When it fell on the assemblage, beating all the members of the party, even its own mother, with its long, forked, leathery tail. This despite being raked, it rose through the chimney and vanished, its harsh cries mingling with the clamor of a storm that was raging out of doors. That night several children disappeared. The dragon had eaten them. For several years thereafter it was glimpsed in the woods at nightfall, and would wing its way heavily from farm to farm, though it seldom did much mischief after its first escape into the world. To sour the milk by breathing on it, to dry the cows, and to sear the corn were its usual errands. On a still night the farmers could follow its course, as they did with trembling, by the howling of dogs, the hoots of owls, and the squawks of poultry. It sometimes appeared on the coast, generally when a wreck impended, and was seen in the company of the spectres that haunt the shore, the golden-haired woman in white, the black-muzzled pirate, and the robber, whose head being cut off at Barnegat Bay by Captain Kidd stumps about the sands without it, guarding a treasure buried near. When it needed a change of diet, the Leeds Devil would breathe upon the cedar swamps, and straightway the fish would die in the pools and creeks, their bodies whitened and decayed by the poison, floating about in such numbers as to threaten illness to all the neighborhood. In 1740, the service of a clergyman was secured, by reason of his piety and exemplary life, had dominion over many of the fiends that plagued New Jersey, and had even prevailed in his congregation against Applejack, which some declared to be a worse fiend than any other, if, indeed, it did not create some of those others. With a candle, book, and bell, the good man banned the creature for 100 years, and truly, the herds and henneries were not molested in all that time. The Leeds Devil had become a dim tradition when, in 1840, it burst its cerements, if such had been put about it, or, at all events, it broke through the clergyman's commandments, and went whiffling among the pines again, eating sheep and other animals, and making clutches at children that dared to sport about their dooryards in the twilight. From time to time it reappeared, its last raid occurring at Vincetown and Burrville in 1899, but it is said that its life has nearly run its course, and with the advent of the new century, many worshipful commoners of New Jersey dismissed, for good and all, the fear of the monster from their minds. So this does come from another ebook from HathiTrust, but you should be able to find it online as well. And this is American Myths and Legends by Charles M. Skinner, printed in Philadelphia and London by J.B. Lippincott Company in 1903. Now, originally I thought we did have this version in the catalog, but alas, it doesn't seem to be and is missing from the stacks in the main library, but we do have other books written by Charles Skinner, so there are those, like later published books, with similar stories and everything. So they are there, just not this one in particular. So Charles Montgomery Skinner was known for writing about folklore in America. There are quite a few books under his name that cover this topic. I'm quite glad he included The Leeds Devil, also known as the Jersey Devil. It is a classic piece of New Jersey folklore. I was trying to find it, but I actually forgot it was called The Leeds Devil, so that was my mistake, but I am happy I found it and was able to share it with you guys. While this book was written in 1903, the first time the Jersey Devil tale did appear in print was in May 1859 in the Atlantic Monthly. And then in 1909, there were a flood of sightings. So it's been seen and reported quite a bit. And I'll actually read just a little snippet from the May 1859 tale. And now, something about Leeds Devil, I said to my friend, after satisfactory definition of the pine rat. What fiend may he be, if you please? I will answer. I will tell you, replies Mr. B. There lived in the year 1735 in the township of Burlington a woman. Her name was Leeds, and she was shrewdly suspected of a little amateur witchcraft. Be that as it may, it was well established that one stormy, gusty night, when the wind was howling in turret and tree, Mother Leeds gave birth to a son, whose father could have been no other than the Prince of Darkness. No sooner did he see light than he assumed the form of a fiend, with a horse's head, bat's wings, and a serpent's tail. The first thought of the newborn Caliban was to fall foul of his mother, whom he scratched and bepummeled soundly, and then flew through the window out into the village, where he played the mischief generally. Little children he devoured, maidens he abused, young men he mauled and battered, and it was many days before a holy man succeeded in repeating the enchantment of Prospero. At length, however, Leeds Devil was laid, but only for 100 years. During an entire century, the memory of that awful monster was preserved, and as 1835 drew nigh, the denizens of Burlington and the Pines looked tremblingly for his rising. Strange to say, however, no one but Hannah Butler has had a personal interview with the fiend, though since 1835 he has frequently been heard howling and screaming in the forest at night, to the terror of the rats in their lonely encampments. Hannah Butler saw the devil one stormy night long ago, though some skeptical individuals affirm that very possibly she may have been led under the influence of liquid Jersey lightning to invest a pine stump or possibly a belated bear with diabolical attributes and a satanic voice. However that may be, you cannot induce a rat to leave his hut after dark, nor indeed will you find many Jersey men, though of a higher order of intelligence, who will brave the supernatural terrors of the gloomy forest at night, unless secure in the strength of numbers. So it's quite interesting to see how the tales are kind of the same or similar in a way. As I said, this is the first time it was seen in print, so Skinner probably got his inspiration from here. And I'll link to this entire tale as well. It is quite a lengthy tale and quite an interesting one at that, so definitely give it a read if you got time. But during this time, the Pine Barrens had a reputation as being a dangerous place, full of the dregs of society, like your robbers and your bootleggers, even your British loyalists, especially during the Revolutionary War. It wasn't the most hospitable place to call home either, and those that did were usually called Pineys, a historically derogatory term, but has since been embraced by many in the region. They call themselves Pineys, and they seem to be rather okay with it. It makes sense, though, this area, as to how a creature like the Jersey Devil would be fabricated either by the folks themselves to keep others out, or even by the surrounding community to keep people from going in there. If you've ever been to the Pine Barrens and certain parts of the Pine Barrens, it is quite spooky, but pretty nice in a spooky way. But what many don't know about the Jersey Devil is that the tale has been around for much longer. maybe somewhere around the early 18th century, when the Leeds, specifically Daniel Lead, and published the American Almanac with his family crest that had a wyvern in it. And that was competing with Benjamin Franklin's The Poor Richard's Almanac. But even before that, when the American Almanac was published by Daniel Leeds' father, Titan Leeds, there was some social unrest within the Quaker community of which they were originally a part of, because the published almanac contained language, symbols, names, data, kind of like astrology, that the Quakers disagreed with. That, coupled with their apparent loyalties to the British Crown, probably all contributed to the birth of the Leeds Devil, or the Jersey Devil, that we know today. And, of course, this tale continues to this very day. So keep your eyes on the skies. Well, that's it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. And that is it for today's episode of Spooky Stories. If you have enjoyed Spooky Stories, be sure to share and follow us on social media at SHU_libraries. Until next time, keep your curiosity alive, and remember, the library holds more than just books. Some stories may linger long after the lights go out.